Hey, it's Eric.
And Lex.
And you're listening to the Cutting Room Floor podcast.
It's a weekly conversation devoted to diving deeper into the messages that were preached right here in our church on Sunday morning.
And an authentic space to Selah as we allow the Word of God to work into our everyday lives.
So hey, thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. Why don't you make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a thing about what's happening on the Cutting Room Floor podcast.
So let's lean in and listen to today's conversation. Well, welcome to the Cutting Room Floor podcast. The pod, you're here, we're here, and we are excited to jump into today's conversation. We're getting into the cutting room floor, where we were as a church this past Sunday, talking all about Jesus and leadership.
Yes.
Come on, where does Jesus and leadership, where do those two things come together? And I'm excited for it. We're going to have a great conversation today. We're glad that you're watching, listening, joining. Let us know your thoughts, what you're learning, what you're gleaning from. We'd love to hear from you. It always helps us if you like, subscribe, comment, all the things. But without further ado, let's jump into today's conversation on Jesus, the Good Shepherd. Hello, my love.
Hello.
How are you
doing?
You look very shepherd-like today.
Wow, I don't know if that's a compliment or
because you're so
not.
furry. Like it's so
furry.
You're wearing.
Strong start.
What are you wearing?
This
it's
is just a sweater.
I know, it's wool. That's the fabric.
Yeah.
That's wool, right?
A little bit. Yep.
And
it's a
wool
mixture.
comes from sheep.
I'm basically being. I am
literally.
a sheep.
You're like, Pastor. How do I live the message? How do I take what you preach on Sunday and not work it on Monday?
Wool only.
You
Clothing.
only wear wool all week after
only
you talk
wool.
about a shepherd and
to learn
sheep.
how to be more sheep-like.
Yeah. I do. When I see you, I think of a sheep. It's
Thank
like, could you
you.
imagine if that
Thank
was
you, my
like the
love.
way we
That's so romantic.
encourage each other?
I love that so much.
There's a little snag in your sweater too. By
I
the
know.
way.
Actually, I was really sad about that. I don't know how to fix it. I'm gonna have to ask if you. I'm gonna have to phone a friend because I don't want it to just like live
Can't
right
you just
there.
cut it off?
No. I think if you cut it, it unravels.
Ooh.
So
You
don't do that.
unravel me.
With the melody. Come on.
All right.
Okay.
We're going to jump in.
Yes, we are.
The Good Shepherd.
The Good Shepherd.
Jesus, leadership.
It was a great
Go.
message. We're going through Jesus' 7 I am statements.
Yeah.
All month long. Well, I think it's a 7 week collection.
Correct.
It's great. It's fun. The Good Shepherd. I thought it was a phenomenal message talking about how Jesus is our Good Shepherd. We talked about, it was kind of building on last week. So I talked about how he's the gate. And your 3 points, just to keep everybody up to speed before we talk about the cutting room floor, what is left behind, is that Jesus is the Good Shepherd because he lays down his life for the sheep, right? He's not like a hired hand.
Yeah.
A hired hand, when he sees the wolf coming, just runs away, only wants what's best for them. But Jesus lays down his life for us, laid his life down at the cross for us so that we could have life. He's the Good Shepherd. Jesus knows us. You talked about Psalm 139, that he formed us in our mother's womb. Like he knows all of us. He knows the good, the bad, and the ugly, yet he still loves us. He still chose us. And then we can actually know him. He knows us. This is all from John chapter 10. And that we can, as his sheep and as he's our shepherd, we can also know him. Yeah. Which is just so beautiful, that thought that we can know God. There's a lot of different narratives out there around religion.
Right.
A lot of different people, if you talk with them, hey, what do you think about knowing God? I think people don't understand. So many people don't have the revelation that we can actually have a relationship with him. We can know him.
Right.
He's not just a generalized God, but he's a personal God.
Yeah.
So I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
And talked about how when Jesus is our leader, how he leads us like a good shepherd, that we can then in turn entrust ourselves to his leadership, which I think is hard. I think trust is hard to come by in our current culture today, and also learn to lead like he does.
Right.
It's kind of twofold.
Yeah.
Your message was twofold.
Yep.
That when we entrust our lives to him to be our shepherd, then it helps us to grow, to be better leaders, to people to lead like he leads, because Jesus leads differently than the world leads.
Right.
So I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, good. Thanks. I love it. I asked a question at the beginning, and I'm curious your answer. What the hardest job in your life you've ever had? I gave my answer. What's your answer?
Okay, well, tell people what your answer was. Okay.
Well, my answer was so we talked about the hardest job, right, you've ever had.
Yeah.
My answer was this. When I was a camp counselor for a Christian summer camp for a cabin of middle school boys.
Yeah.
It truly was one of my It actually ended up being one of my favorite weeks ever in my college days because we had so much fun and God did some cool stuff. It was also the most rowdy, wild, unpredictable, messy, disgusting, smelly, emotional week ever, and tested my leadership unlike anything else. I'd also say what I'm doing today is probably way 1,000 times harder than that, but I enjoyed that experience. That was my story. What was yours?
Okay, well, I'll answer and I won't answer all at the same time, because the hardest job I've ever done, number one, is being a mom.
Yeah.
And number two is pastoring. So like simultaneously, just like the hardest things we've ever done. But the first job I ever had, which was hard for me at the time, right? When I was 16, this job was super hard. Worked at Menards. Okay, so I had no idea what anything of that world is. But
get your rebates.
But get your rebates, get your paint, get your hardware. Get your hardware. Get all your bits. And I'm a 16-year-old girl. Like, I don't know. I just want to like hang out with my friends. But Menards treated me well for many years. Wow. I didn't treat Menards well, I don't think.
There you go.
I showed up though. I was a very good employee. I wasn't knowledgeable. So anyways, it was hard for me then.
It's great. I love it.
But it wasn't hard.
Anyway, that was off topic.
Yeah. But I want to talk about this.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, go.
Because you led us to this point of tension before we went into our points in your message. Which I think is real for people, because you brought up how Jesus is the good shepherd. He's good at leading us. He's competent. He's like good at his job of shepherding us. But so often when it comes to leadership in our world, we are so hard to trust.
Right.
Anybody. And it wasn't that way maybe 20 years ago, right? Like I remember talking with your parents, like 20 years ago, people trusted their pastors. They trusted their doctors. They trusted politicians. They had maybe not 100%, but they had way more reliability and trust and influence in their lives just from being that role. But nowadays, I feel like that trust has just diminished. Where it needs to be built, but it's really hard to build. And so, you want to trust a pastor, but you've seen so many just like lives come out that were so incongruent to what they'd say. You want to trust a doctor, but there's so many voices and narratives. Do you really care about me, or are you just trying to make money? Like you want to trust people. But it's really hard to do. We have so many narratives telling us so many different things from social media and the news. So how do we learn to trust Jesus?
Right.
As our good shepherd. And I think that people would say, oh no, I trust Jesus. I trust him. But I think if you dug into that a little bit deeper, well, how much do you trust him? Do you trust him with your whole life? Have you submitted your life to his care? Do you trust that the Bible wants, like what's in that Bible, the boundaries and the commands, do you trust that that's for your flourishing?
Right.
Like how much do you trust him?
Right.
Do you trust that he is who he says he is? All the things. So maybe we can dive into that a little bit, because I think that that's a real place for people.
No, I do. I think it is too. And I grew up in the church and been around church life my whole life, right? And so I've been around many leaders, people, and been able to watch the rise and fall, not just of one leader, but of many leaders. And I think that has caused some real damage.
Totally.
Both inside the church for followers of Jesus, people involved in local churches. And I think then as well, people who are outside the church, I think as you just look at the world, I think there's a lot of mistrust of leadership because there's a lot of abuse in leadership. Totally. I think, very small levels, like in management in your company, or maybe the places you work for, the teams you've been a part of. I think there's power dynamics, there's agendas, there's this feeling of like, am I going to be used? I think there's very real wounds that people carry, and that people know others that they carry wounds. So I'm going to take it on for myself as well. That I think has caused, from just a leadership point of view, this whole thing of building trust for a leader is very hard. It takes a lot of work. I think as a leader, me and you are leaders. Many listening today, you lead in various capacities of your life. As a leader, building trust is not given. It shouldn't be assumed. In fact, maybe the opposite. As a pastor, I think should be assumed. People don't trust you. Like, I don't know. What are you going to say? Who are you? What's your motives?
What's your real life like?
Yeah, what's your real life? Like, I know what you do on the stage.
What's
what do
your
you
marriage
do at home?
like? Yeah.
What's your marriage? Like, all those things. So I think building trust is a huge task, an ongoing. You don't just reach it one day and you're good to go. An ongoing requirement to be a healthy and good leader today in our Western world. And, I'm grateful for what it's worth, because I hear the narrative so much around pastors. And I'm not saying this on our behalf, but I'm grateful that, some pastors have made bad decisions. I do want to say this, though. many, and maybe probably even most pastors
Thousands.
have led actually beautiful lives.
Yes.
I think my mom and dad are a
Biblical
great
lives.
example of
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
You hear so much, I don't trust pastors, I don't trust churches. Why? Because one pastor messed up. I can give you an example of a beautiful couple who pastored for 3 decades, have a beautiful marriage, beautiful family, and have lived with integrity and purity their whole life. So take the glasses off of the one experience, and maybe, there you go, take the glasses off, and look broader. So I think that's a part of that. But I think the point is this. Here's the bottom line. There is, in culture, a mistrust for leadership.
Yes. You can't get around it.
Can't get around it. And it's actually valid. In some moments, it's valid.
Totally.
The challenge is, here's why you bring that tension up. The challenge is, Jesus wants to be our leader.
Yeah.
And I think that now we've hit this weird tension in our lives because we don't know if we can trust leaders. And I think sometimes a lot of people, followers of Jesus, truly, if you're to press them, don't know if they can trust Jesus.
Yeah.
Do you have my best interest in mind?
Yeah.
Will you truly care for me? Are the promises you've spoken, do you really mean them? Are they actually going to happen in my life, in my world? Can I trust you? And I think what Jesus brings to us, as he declares in John 10, I'm the good shepherd. And I think what we see in Scripture is he is a leader who's trustworthy.
Yeah.
And you already said the reasons he gives, but in John 10, he gives us 3 reasons of why his leadership is trustworthy.
Yeah. Because
he doesn't just care for sheep, he dies for sheep.
Yeah.
He lays his life down for sheep.
Yeah.
When we wouldn't lay out, what love is this? And a man should lay down his life for his friend. Few would lay down their life for a righteous man, but no one would lay down their life for an unrighteous man. Jesus laid his life down for every unrighteous man to ever exist. We would never lay our life down for an unrighteous man, but he did it for everybody. That's one reason we can trust him. Second, so he's here for us. He came to serve us, not to be served. Secondly, because he knows us. He created us. He crafted us. He actually knows us all. He knows every part of us.
Uniquely, intimately,
deeply
truly,
knows
genuinely.
Us. He knows he knows what you're thinking about right now.
Yeah.
He knows you.
Yeah.
He knows your tendencies, your thoughts, your habits, your desires, your dreams.
Yes.
And in all the good, bad, and the ugly, he loves you.
Yes.
He chooses you. That's why we can trust him. We can trust him because he makes himself known.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Even those first 2 points, probably good enough to trust you. But even more than that, you then say, hey, come inspect me.
Yeah.
I invite you into my world.
Know me.
I want you to know me. Gnosko, know, intimate, personally. I want you to know me.
Let me prove to you.
Yeah. Let me
who I am.
I know. In fact, I want you to know me so deeply. That's trustworthy.
Yeah.
And so I think like you said, there's this twofold thing. I think as we're learning to follow Jesus, we're learning to be led.
Yeah.
We're learning what it means to follow someone, to trust him.
Yes.
I think that was a heart of what I wanted to share, and I hope what people are taking away. But I think the second aspect, unless you want to jump in here, is then we're learning to lead.
Yeah.
And to then be believers who now live on earth, and we swim upstream in our leadership.
And can I just jump in really quick?
Jump.
I think when it comes to being led, it's what we're talking about is different than simple obedience. Right? When you're working in a job and your boss wants you to do something,
gives you a command.
You can be obedient to your boss and not trust them. Not trust that they want your flourishing.
Correct.
So you can still be very obedient to God and not trust him.
Obedience and trust are not always the same thing.
They're two different things.
Yes.
They're two different things. And I think what God's after is our trust.
Correct.
Because trusting him will lead us to genuine obedience.
Yeah.
But in a religious way, you can be quote unquote, you can do what God asks and have I'm so surrendered. Whatever you want, Lord, I'll do it. But you can still not trust that he's going to lead you to green pastures.
Correct.
So those are two different things.
Yeah. And what he's after, I think what Jesus, and we're finding in this collection that we've been talking about him, I think what I'm seeing, he's not just after our doing.
No.
He's truly after the depths of our heart.
Of our hearts.
He wants to be the Lord and leader
of our lives.
Of our whole lives.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get caught up on the outward, on obedience,
behavior,
on surrender, which are so behavior oriented. And there's a part of obedience that's so valuable.
Totally. Yeah.
But Jesus is like, no, I didn't come for obedience. I came for all of you.
Yeah.
And I want to win all of your trust.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the safest place. I want you to follow me, not because it's the right thing to do.
Not because I'm forcing you.
Not because you'll go to hell if you don't.
Not because I'm making you.
But because you want to, because you trust me. Because you know my love for you. You know the way I protect you. You know the way I'm going to make you better. I'm gonna a good leader. I'm gonna
stretch you.
I'm
and
gonna
grow
stretch
you.
you and grow you. I'm gonna call out junk in your life.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, hey, that way of thinking is wrong.
Gonna bring you
I'm
higher.
gonna work
Yeah.
with you on
Yep.
that. I'm gonna lead you so that you can have, like you said, the word flourishing
Yeah.
in every area of your life. To me, that's a whole new lens of what it looks like to be a follower of Jesus, what it looks like to engage in Scripture. We're not just looking for obedience, behavior modification. We're not just looking for outward signs of surrender. We're looking for wholehearted submission to his leadership.
Yes.
That's pretty epic.
It's pretty epic.
And pretty hard.
Yeah.
And the truth is, like, that's not going to happen overnight,
No.
right? Like,
No.
that's a journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's something there. I think, for those I feel like listening today who are living with the wounds of the abuse of leadership, living with the wounds
That's what
of,
I was just about to ask you.
you know, I was setting someone up on this pedestal, right? Like, this pastor I so admired and like I wanted to follow, and he really impacted my life, but he had a moral failing, or something bad happened, or I was used. Like, I thought they genuinely loved me, but only to come find out I feel like they were just using me.
Yeah. What do you do with that?
So
What do you do with that?
there's so much there.
Yeah.
I just think I want to say this. Like, I think Jesus wants to heal.
Yeah.
He wants to heal those wounds.
Yes.
By showing you that he's the kind of leader that you should have been following all along.
Yeah.
And that despite the failings of man, that he's not failed you. It's not him.
Yep.
He's still a good leader. And even in those failings you may have experienced from a leader, or maybe yourself as a leader,
Yeah.
like, dang, like that was me. Like, I had every intention to do it well, but I'm a human and I messed up and I've hurt people and I feel ashamed. Hey, Jesus wants to heal.
Yeah. He wants to heal both of you.
He
Yeah.
wants to show you a
Both
new,
of those groups of people.
a new path. I think more than
Yeah.
anything, there's some steps of health, but one of them I think is to not allow a jadedness to make you run from the leadership of Jesus.
Yeah.
To run from the leadership of his word.
Guard from the root of bitterness.
Yeah, to guard from the root of bitterness. And it's probably a big conversation. Like, what do you do with wounds and hurts from leadership?
Yeah.
It's probably a bigger kind than we have time for
Yeah.
today. I think my heart for people is to look to Jesus.
And I think my encouragement to anybody who's feeling that, present tense dealing with that, is to pray a vulnerable prayer for God to redeem that in your life. I think it's a lot easier just to, I had these few experiences and now I'm letting that change my relationship with church, my relationship with Christianity, my relationship with pastors. It's a lot safer to just, put some boxes around that. But what my encouragement to anybody who's in that space would be, hey, I would actually encourage you to pray a vulnerable prayer and ask that the Lord would redeem those broken pieces in your life and put you in a healthy body, put you with healthy pastors. And actually that will bring much more healing to you than just trying to, keep yourself safe. It'll actually it'll be harder because you'll have to put yourself out there again. You have to find community again, but that's how God's going to redeem it. And there are healthy, like you said, for the one pastor that we see that's living an incongruent life, there are 100 pastors that are doing it beautifully, working their hardest, laying their lives down, living with integrity, with purity. So my encouragement would be, I know that there's pain there. I know that there's layers there, but the most vulnerable thing you could do is say, Lord, redeem that for me. Give me a different narrative.
I love it. And I think one of the things I heard years ago that's really helped me is we're hurt in community, but we're healed in community. And I think one of the ways God heals us when we've been hurt in community and relationships by leaders is he actually will use a new community, new relationships, different leaders to bring healing to wounds. And I think it's going on that journey of trusting again. And then learning too, right? Like I think I've had a tendency, especially when I was younger, of idolizing people to a point of unhealth.
Totally.
And so taking responsibility.
It's easy to do that.
I've had to take responsibility for that, where I saw pastors or leaders or influencers and I idolized them. I not them. I did it.
Yeah, you did.
I put them on a pedestal.
Yeah.
I thought they were like, I put them at it, and it's like, no, like, you know what? Like, I've grown so much in health now as to leaders. If I value what you bring, I know what it looks like to submit and surrender. I know what it looks like to follow, but I also know you're human. I also know that you're just like we both have skin and bone, and we all make mistakes. And as much as when I'm a follower, as much as I have my own sin, my own issues, I'm going to assume you do too, because
Totally.
we're all human.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to put you on a pedestal. I'm going to honor.
Yeah.
You know, there's a place for honor. I get all that. I think sometimes we've gotten into a culture of over honor.
Totally.
Honor at the point of unhealth.
Yeah.
Honor in a point where my honoring, it's gone too far. And I think we have to guard our own hearts against that
And knowing
as we're
that
on
we
the
have
healing journey.
our good shepherd,
Yeah, that's right.
who's the number one,
Yep.
who's leading my life.
That's right.
And then I do have a shepherd. I have a pastor who I'm submitting to, helping to lead me and guide me. But at the end of the day, I have a good shepherd
right.
who I'm responsible
Yeah.
to, who I answer to,
Yeah.
and who hopefully my shepherd answers
Yeah.
to. Right?
Yeah.
That's how God set it up.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's really good, and I think that's a larger conversation. But I do think it's important to even touch on. But I think
Yep,
go ahead.
Well, maybe I'm just going to say it could be a transition for us, because
Yeah.
my last thought on this, which I think leads to where maybe we can go, is I think the other thing that's helped me grow in trusting leadership, grow in healing from moments where I've been hurt, where words have been spoken to me, where I thought it was going to look one way and it didn't.
Yeah.
I think what's helped me is when I became a leader.
Totally.
It's so easy to shoot shots at leaders until you become one.
Yeah, and then you're like,
And then you
okay,
go, dang. All right, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
people are shooting shots at me now.
Yeah, right.
Like, I now am responsible. Like, I now have to live at this bar that I demanded you lived at this bar when you were my leader, but now I'm a leader. So I got to live at that bar? Like, all right, like that's a process for me, and it gave me loads of grace. It goes, okay, cool. Like I have more grace now. I have the ability to show more mercy than I used to show.
Absolutely.
I can show more grace than I used to show to really everybody.
Yep.
When you step into really any position at any form in the church and outside the church, even as a parent, right? Like of kids, you're like, oh, I used to judge parents hard. Like I used to be that person. I never would say it out loud. Before we had kids, I'd see a parent and their child's going nuts at Applebee's. And I'm like,
get your kid under control.
Get your kid under control. Like, what are you doing? Like, learn how to parent. And now my kid's the one doing that. And I see the other parents, I'm like, oh, dear God, hey, we're in this together. You got
You're
this.
like, do you need a babysitter? I'll go to your house and watch your kid.
You're on the airplane and you have the baby crying on the airplane and you're like, oh, okay, are you kidding? Like, of all that, and you kind of start getting mad about it. Now, like, there's a whole new grace I live with. Why?
Yeah.
Why do I have more grace for parents?
Totally.
Because I became a parent.
Yeah.
And so I think, how do I grow through some pain points with leaders? Again, this is a bigger conversation.
Yeah.
Hear me now. For some, it's heavy and deep hurt. You got to deal with that. Get a counselor.
Yeah.
But just practically, what do I do? Here's my encouragement. Go become a leader. You go become a leader and you'll feel that same weight, and it'll give you some grace you didn't have before.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that because Jesus is our leader.
Yes.
And teaches us to lead.
He teaches us to lead. And I do want to talk about leadership for a little bit. There's a verse in, I think it was Psalm 78, I believe, where it talks about David and talks about how David led with integrity of heart and with skillful hands.
Yeah.
And I think that's a verse for us that we've held on to as we've been learning to lead, is like, Lord, teach us to lead with integrity of heart, with purity, with like teach us to be leaders, and we are, but teach us even more that like our lives are the same, they're congruent, they can be trusted, and teach us to lead with skillful hands. That like it's not all heart, it's also like there are some skills that need to be in place, and we have a vision, we have places to go, we have people to reach, cities to change for the kingdom of God. So that's going to take some skill.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a great verse for anybody who's a leader. Lord, wherever I'm at, maybe you lead in the marketplace. Maybe you lead a business. Maybe you're a photographer, a teacher, a coach. Lord, help me to lead today. Grow me into the type of leader that leads like you with integrity of heart. Yeah. Reveal to me areas of my life that don't live with integrity. Yeah. Show me spots that I'm missing it. Show me areas that you need to help change and sanctify in my life. Yeah. And also help me to grow in skill. Yeah. Like there are things that I need to learn how to do that I do not know how to do. Yeah. Yeah. I had to learn how to preach. Yeah. I'm still learning how to preach. That's a skill. Yeah. Yeah. It's an anointing. It's a grace. And let me tell you, it's also a skill. And so I can preach better now than I could 2 years ago. Why? Just because I've been putting myself out there, been working on it. It's something I've been practicing. Yeah. So Lord, like there's skills that I need to grow in to be a better leader. Help me to manage our team better. Yeah. Give me skills to be a better leader to our staff. Yeah. Give me skills to be a better mom. Yeah. Like to help Olive to learn and discern and learn to read. Lord, give me the skills.
Learn to go number 2 on the toilet by herself.
Learn to be potty trained. Oh my gosh, Lord, give me the skill for that. I have the integrity of heart. I just need the skill, dang it. Anyways, learning to lead.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody feels that. And if they don't, then they should. Like, you should be praying that. We should all be praying that. Give us integrity of heart, skills to be really good leaders. But I think before we can even go there, is like learning to believe.
Yeah, let's talk about this.
That you are a leader.
Yeah.
And I think what was so great is that people responded to your message. But what we loved is that, like, you asked, like, if you feel like you're a leader, you know, in your family, in your community, in your workplace, I'm going to pray for you. Would you put your hands on the pastor receiving? What I loved is that 95% of the room did, which is what we're looking for, because we believe that everybody has leadership capacity. Everybody is leading in spheres of influence, whether you're working, whether you're at home with your kids and leading them, like whatever realm you're in. You're a leader for the kingdom of God. Yeah. But I think that before we can learn to lead well, we have to believe that we are leaders. Yeah. Which took me forever to actually believe. No, I don't know. I think some people struggle with that. Like, you know, I don't want to be a leader. I don't think that I am. I'm not good at anything. I don't feel like there's things like, and I feel like that's something you have to really work through and kind of come to understand, like, no, I can lead. Yeah.
No, it's so cheesy. Like, I think it's cheesy because I've heard it my whole life. But, you know, John Maxwell famously defines leadership this way. Yeah. Leadership is influence. Yeah. We live in a world that leadership is often equated to titles. Yeah. That, I'm not a leader where I work because I'm not a manager, or I'm not, I'm not an executive. I'm not in those rooms. I don't have those positions. And I think that's the lowest form of leadership. And John Maxwell talks about this. He has his famous 5 levels of leadership. Yeah. The first level is the level of title.
Yeah, just position.
But that doesn't make you a leader.
No.
Just because you get called pastor, because you get called teacher, because you get called manager, you don't become a leader.
No.
You can be a terrible leader and have a really big title. Leadership, really more refined, is just influence. Yeah. Where does your life carry influence? Hey, you don't have to be a manager to have influence where you work. You don't have to be, have some title to be an influencer in your home, in your school, on your sports teams, wherever in your local church. Influence is not a title. No. Influence is,
and it's not a personality.
It's not a personality. Yeah. It's who you are. Yeah. And I think when you can frame leadership like that for yourself and internalize that, you can start rewriting those scripts.
Totally.
Of like, no, I actually am a leader. Yeah. I may sometimes feel like I suck at it. I might feel like I'm not a good leader, but I actually am a leader. Yeah. And I think step 1 in leadership development, if we're going to like the basics of leadership, embracing I'm a leader.
Which is like, okay, because I'll share a little bit of my story when it comes to leadership, because I married into a really strong family of leaders. Okay. A lot going on here into this family I married into, which I love, by the way, dearly. But I felt like I was very different than all of them. Like Eric, my husband, that I love dearly right here, is just like a natural born leader. I mean, he could lead any room. Like everywhere he goes, he's chosen to like be the leader. Like he's just the leader. And for years, because we dated for so long, and then we've been married, we're coming up on 8 or 9 years? 8, right?
Yes.
I felt like I lived in the shadow of your natural leadership and personality, and not intentionally. You didn't make me. I made me, because I thought, well, I'm not that way. I don't have that personality. I don't want to get up on stage and preach or teach. I'm more inward. I don't know. Like I just felt like I couldn't do it. It wasn't for me. I felt like I could never be, X, Y, or Z examples of leadership that I've seen in ministry. I felt like I couldn't fit a mold. Like I really wrestled with that. So because I wrestled with that, I just said, well, I must not be a leader. If it's a personality thing, if it's like I have to do X, Y, and Z, I must not be a leader. Yeah. And I think what the Lord had to do is take me on a journey to realize that how he's created and wired and shaped me is exactly the leader that I need to be. And not only is it the leader I need to be, but it's the leader that our church needs. That our church doesn't need me to be somebody else.
To be me.
It doesn't need me to be you.
You like,
And leadership is learning. I think leadership is learning to be absolutely content. With who God has made you to be. And then to bring all of you to the surface of what he's entrusted you with.
You should write that down.
Because like if I'm just like he's entrusted us with a lot. So I have a responsibility to show up. And to bring myself to it. And if I bring somebody else to it, that's not That's not what he wants, nor is it going to help people.
Yeah, and nor is what people will respond to.
Nor is it what people will respond to,
people can
because it will
sniff
be
that
fake.
out, right?
It will be
Like,
fake.
Yeah, easy.
So I think for people, like, you are, no matter what you do in your 9 to 5, you are a leader in the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
You have things that our world needs.
Yes.
But if you don't ever believe that, you can live your whole life insecure.
Great.
You can live your whole life, woe is me.
Yep, doubting
yourself. You can live your
Yep.
whole life, I'm not good at anything.
Yep.
You can live your whole life hiding in the shadow of other people. You can live your whole life trying to be other people because you think that that's what God wants. But listen, you're wasting your days.
Great.
You are wasting your potential. You're wasting what God has created you for. And you're going to look back and you're going to be, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Right? Why was I that way?
Great.
No more.
Yeah.
Today's a new day. Speak to your soul. You don't have to be anybody but who God's called you to be.
Yeah.
I'm going to change.
Yeah.
I'm a leader.
Yes.
And who God's made me is what my world needs.
Yeah.
Who God's made me is what my kids need.
Yeah.
Who God's made me is what our church needs.
Yeah.
Step into it. Stop being so insecure.
Let's go.
Move into security. I think that's your portion. So
Love it.
I don't know, but you have to believe you're a leader. That's what we're talking about.
Awesome. I think that's foundational. I think that's step one. And I think when you grab onto that, then and only then can you start entering the scary waters of doing what you read, that verse you read.
Yes.
Of learning the skills.
Yes.
And living with integrity, right? Like learning skills and integrity to do the portion of leadership that you're assigned to.
Yes.
Let's start with skills.
Boom.
Massive, important. Every leader needs skills.
Yes.
You need interpersonal skills. You need leadership skills for your job, what we do. You need practical skills for your thing. So here's my encouragement. Get better.
Get better.
We say this language to each other all the time. Get bigger.
Get bigger.
Oh, I don't feel like I can do that. Guess what? Get bigger.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like I've hit a wall.
You have to do it.
Yeah. Guess what? You don't have a choice. Step up. Do it. Learn, grow, study, read books. Yeah. I have a passion on the inside. And I think I got this from my parents because my mom and dad, 30 years of ministry, never stopped learning.
Yeah.
My dad, when he was in his 60s, got his master's degree in biblical studies to learn, because why stop learning? Like, to me, there's always skills to grow. I think you can put a plan together for yourself. You can grow in your discipline. You can grow in your knowledge. You can grow in your skills. If you're going to be a good and successful leader, people are dependent on you doing the hard work of increasing your skills.
Yeah. Because leaders lead from the front.
They lead from the front, and they need to lead well.
They need to learn skills so that they can teach people on their teams to learn those skills. Like you have to be able to buster some walls yourself. Yeah.
But so I think skills, valuable, so important. But I think here's the challenge. Sometimes many of us are thrown, I think this is what happened to me. Many of us are thrown into positions of leadership because we have a natural bent towards skills.
Yep.
But
we're competent.
We're competent.
For the job.
We're capable. Yeah. Man, you're really good at shooting 3-pointers.
But your
Man,
character.
You're really good at.
Yeah.
You have the skills, but you've not yet developed the integrity of heart.
The character.
The character needed to keep you where your skills get you.
Yes.
This is old school traditional leadership talk right now.
Come on, let's go. I've heard a million messages on it.
But somebody needs this today.
Yeah.
Your competency, your skills will only take you so far.
Yep.
It is your character
that will keep you there.
That will keep you there.
Let's go.
It is always your character that will keep you there. And I think our issues with leaders are our biggest issues are with leaders who had every skill in the world.
I love their skills. Yeah.
I love their skills.
Yeah.
I love their leadership quotient. I love what they built, what they did, what they accomplished.
I love
how
their
they
church.
preach.
Yeah.
You name it.
Yeah.
You want to know what they never had?
Character. Yeah. Or they had it, and then somewhere along the way.
Exactly.
Like David,
they
his
stopped
story.
They
stopped stewarding that.
And I think for a leader, what's so much more important than your skills? Oh, I think God needs this. He needs me and you to do this. I think He needs us as a church family, those listening to do this, to develop your character.
Yeah, integrity.
Character is not developed on a platform.
No.
Character is not developed when you're leading the room. Character isn't developed when you're challenging someone. Character is not developed when you're casting big vision, when you're developing strategies. Character is developed in the quiet place, the secret place. Character is developed when you're honest and open with God. Character is developed
in your marriage.
When you have accountability for your actions and behavior, and you hold yourself to a standard. And when you fail, you admit it, you get up and you keep fighting. Character is always what will keep you where God has called you to be, where the gifts and skills He's given you. Character, integrity of heart is what the world is longing for.
Yes.
Where does our mistrust with leadership come from?
Not the skills.
Does it come because they overpromised and didn't have the skills to do it? No. our mistrust from leadership has always come from not skills, but character.
Yep.
Come from integrity. So my encouragement for me and you, we're vested in this. It's why we see counselors regularly. It's why we have layers of accountability in our own life. It's a passion of our heart. For those listening today, my challenge, what if instead of focusing on your skills, which we all naturally think to do, what if you focused on your character?
Yeah.
What if you built integrity? I think in particular for those maybe that are like me, where like your whole life you've kind of like, I don't know, maybe God, I don't know what this is, but you've always kind of been picked to be a leader. Or you feel like leadership's been natural for you. You feel like you've had the skills to do it. My challenge for you is get real deep down vested in your character and integrity.
Yeah.
Focus on that. Maybe, stop doing something. Just focus
That's
on
great.
what it looks like to live with integrity.
That's great.
Because again, it's your character that will keep you in your calling.
Like, let's go. Like, God build roots deep down within you. I remember when we can end on this, but for any young people in the room, I know there's a few that I've talked with that are like, I don't know what I'm called to do, what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
I remember one year I was driving to college as a freshman, going back to Cornerstone, which I went for a year and a half. And I was praying. I would use that drive as like an hour to pray. It's like an hour and a half because I took the back roads because I was too afraid to drive on the highway. God had to build skill in my life.
She had developed a lot of skills, God.
And I was praying and I was like, Lord, what have you called me to do? What have you created me to do? Like, what am I good at? And just dramatic, like just Big Mama Diva probably was my name for a while, just dramatic. And I really felt the Holy Spirit tell me, just love me.
Yeah.
Just love me. And looking back, and those were words that connected with my heart because I said, okay, I can do that. Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to be with my life. I don't know what you've got for me. I don't feel like I'm uniquely skilled at anything, right? I felt that way for a long time. But I do know that I can love you. Yeah. I know that I can love you with my whole heart. I can commit my life to that and trust that as I commit to loving you, or in other words, to living with integrity of heart, to growing roots, to becoming a person, a woman of character as I learn to love you, that you will reveal skills to me and your plan to me. Like if I have to choose one, I'm choosing to grow in integrity of heart. And I know that then as I do that, as I form that from within, that all the outside stuff, all the skills that you need me to get, that you're good enough to get me there. You're good enough to open doors. So maybe if you're younger today and you're praying, what am I supposed to do? And you're stressed about it. I mean, you are stressed to the max. Yeah. Because you're like, you feel the weight of the world is on your shoulders. It's not. Yeah. It's not. Yeah. Love God. Yeah. Lay your life down. Yeah. Live for Him. Love Him with your whole heart, soul, and mind and strength. He loves you so much. He will show you exactly what you're meant to do in time. Great. But if you have to pick, love Him.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. No, I think it's great. I love it. I hope you're encouraged today. Thanks for joining us on the Cutting Room Floor podcast. Let's be those who allow our lives to be led by Jesus. And then in every space of leadership we stand in, may we be the kind of people who choose to lead like Jesus. That kind of leadership is trustworthy. And I think that kind of leadership can change the world we're in. Love you guys. We'll see you next time at the Cutting Room Floor.